Hello and welcome to class. As Grant mentioned, for those of you who cannot be here for the lectures, I of course am Tim, and I will be walking you through the behind the scenes footage that is shot. Fortunately for today, we are going over the lighting lesson that Grant gave the class last Friday. In this lesson, we'll be going over several different parts. I will be popping in as like a commentary track anytime there's something that needs clarification, or maybe our footage doesn't is incomplete, or anytime I can talk, I will talk. So if at all you watch this and you have any questions or comments, please message me directly and I will provide the information. All right, again, let's get started and take a listen to what Grant taught the class.
Right, so it's a tripod for the camera. They're all the same height. So if you open it up, all the legs are the same. And it's really designed just to hold the camera. The C-stand has 3 legs. So when they fold up, they look like this. And then you can fan them out. By the way, there are a lot of different kinds. These all seem to be the same that the studio has. I have like 5 different kinds. I only brought one. But these allow the stem to come out of the legs so that you can buy either stubbies, like half the length, or longer ones. I don't think we've ever deal with that. One of the ones that I like a lot, which, it's this.
Just to clarify, these are C-stands that he's talking about. I'm not sure if that came across, but the C-stands are primarily used, and he's going to go over it in just a bit, of everything that like you would potentially hold it for. There are many different kinds. So C-stands are really used on film sets. If you're on a professional film set, C-stands are multi-use equipment. They're great.
No, they're the same kind. They have some where the high leg can raise up and down the stem. So imagine if you were like going against stairs. You could, if I put this against a stair, it would be in an angle. But this allows it to go up, so you can go really close to a stair or something. I've even done it right next to a countertop because it can go way up high. So that's kind of a cool feature. Some of them have knobs that loosen, but a lot of these, when they're closed up, all you need to do is pull them until they lock, and that's how you open them. Okay? When they're open on set, we tend to stack them like this. The tall leg goes over the short leg so that you can get a bunch of them right close to one another. They don't take a lot of space. Does that make sense? So that's how we'll stack them once they're on set. Now, the C-stands are fine to be on their own when they don't have anything on them. But as soon as we put a light or something on the C-stand, it's important that you have a sandbag. They are top heavy, and especially when you're outside, if there's a little bit of wind, they can tip over kind of easily. So we put a sandbag on them. Anyone guess what leg we would, if you had one sandbag, where it would go?
I know.
Lowest leg.
Which leg?
The lowest leg.
The lowest leg? That seemed to make sense, right? It is not the best, though, because the sandbags, actually, the weight of it is on the ground, so it still has a lot of movement. When you put it on the highest leg, now it's all resting on the C-stand, and there's no movement. Is that what you were going to say? Yeah.
Yeah, and
so
this is if you only have one sandbag. You can always use multiple sandbags too to make it more sturdy if you're concerned. Wind is definitely a factor once we start putting flags and things that are like really affected by weather, but I'm sure we'll talk about that.
If it's a very heavy load, sometimes we'll put 2 sandbags.
See, he just said, he's just about to say what I just said. So maybe I'll be more quiet in the future.
Second one will go on the medium leg, and that locks it in even more. If we're going to do a third sandbag, instead of going on that low one, we'll do a big one over the top, and that is a lot of weight, and it's not going anywhere. So sandbags are important because what the C-stands hold is quite valuable, the lighting, and they can be very sensitive if they fall or whatever. Another thing you want to know, this is the knuckle. The knuckle should be on the right side when we tighten it. If you tighten it and it's on the right side, when you push down, it tightens it even more. If it's on the left side, like this, when you tighten it, it just loosens and goes down. So you want the gobel arm to be on the right side. So again, when you tighten it, it can't go down. So you want to be aware of that. That length works. I can certainly shorten it if I want to.
So now he's answering questions about it, like what you know. He gave us our basic overview of what a C-stand is. We'll get more into this in this lesson as far as like the utility, as far as like versatility of putting things on. The arms and the knuckles and everything, you can actually build them together to make a longer reach. I think that's what he's about to show us.
So I can, if I don't want it to extend as far, I can bring it back, which is a nice feature. But sometimes this is not enough. So we can take another arm and run it on, there's a couple different ways, but I can do this. I like it when we double.
Thing that's not advertised about this, especially when you're not in person, is C-stands are heavy. There's Geronimo, everybody. As you can see,
two of them together.
Yep, they built together. C-stands are a heavier item, just naturally designed to hold heavy items, so that you just need to be aware when moving with it. I've gotten more injured in my video production filmmaking career with the C-stand just by accidentally, punching myself in the face with the arm or catching my finger in one of the clamps. Hitting my shins with the legs. Be very careful, and always recommend carry 1 to 2 at the most. Never try for 3. It's very awkward as well.
You can do it individually, but then they can loosen up. This is a lot stronger, but if you can see, I've just added another 30 inches or so to extend farther. So that's one possibility.
Do they sell longer bars?
They do. I've never owned one. They also sell.
David asked about longer arms. Basically, what we have in the studio are pretty standard as far as arm length. They do make longer ones, but like ultimately, the longer they are, eventually they become less stable. You can actually buy smaller sandbags to hang on those arms to help stabilize. Once you start putting in, what we're gonna see is scrims and flags and stuff. Oh, looks like we got a practical demonstration. Practical demonstration of the C-stand. Like anything in video production, it is about a muscle memory and figuring out how to do it. First time, it always seems easier to do than possible. He's trying to find which one's the head versus which one's the arm. Alright, he found the head that's going on to the tip of the C-stand there. All right, and now he's loosening one of the knuckle, which will allow the arm to extend. Now we got some height so that, oh, and he's rotating. Remember, you want on the right side because it'll tighten that way.
Okay, now,
sounds.
So you sit on the right side?
yep.
Right side, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. All right.
That's stronger.
Yeah. If I was going to put on a light on here right now, let's say I was aiming it in this direction, what do you see the problem being?
It's too low, Grant.
No sandbags and the way the legs are positioned, put the longer one out.
Exactly. Oh, that's another thing we didn't say. That's a really good point. Okay, whenever we have the light's not going straight up and down, we're having it go in one direction. Let's say I want the light there. If it's in between legs, that's really easy for it to tip over. But it gets a lot stronger when you have a leg in front. You can see that it's less likely to tip. But the best thing to do is have the longest leg in the same direction of the arm. That gives you the most strength, less likely that it's going to tip over.
Just makes sense, right?
So, where would you put the sandbag?
The top one there.
Yeah.
That way the weight's
And
on
it seems strange. It seems like you're putting all kinds of weight on one side and it's more likely to tip, but it's not. So, always a sandbag on the highest leg. If you're going to have a second one, have it on the second highest medium leg, and then have the long leg, the highest leg, in the direction of the arm. So, good, perfect, very well done. All right, let's start talking about, well, I wonder if we should get out a 1K.
A 1K
So,
is a type of
2Ks,
light.
I never use them
All right,
because
here's
you
the 1K
need
light.
a dedicated 20 amp circuit only, and if there's anything on there, it will trip. Plus, they get to like 800-900 degrees and take a super long time to shut down after you strike them. So 1Ks are the kind of go-to light. They're incandescent lights. So they produce the kind of the yellowish orange color instead of the daylight balanced blue lights that are quite often today. But this is a 1K. By the way, what Drum was holding is a stinger. We don't call it an extension cord, we call it a stinger.
Yeah.
Extension cords and power strips are stingers.
Stingers. So if you're on the set, someone says, "Give me a stinger," you know it's going to be an extension cable or core. Never call them extension cables. It's one of the Hollywood vernacular things that like when it's your first day on the set, they're going to try to trick you with a lot of things. Stinger is one good thing to know. He was talking about how it gets hot. And using a 1K that is an incandescent light, that means it has a bulb, unlike an LED, which is going to be a cool light. These ones light up quick, get hot, and you can literally burn all the skin off your hand if you touch them. So we recommend when manipulating them, gloves. I'm sure he'll probably talk about that. But the other issue is when you turn them off, they aren't instantly cold too. So I've seen, and I have burnt myself on many occasions.
Okay, so this is a 1K light, and I'm going to strike this. I say striking ahead of time because it is so bright, and I'm going to torture some of you. You can see just how incredibly bright that is. And if you are not ready for it, and that suddenly turns on, that can really hurt your eyes. So we always get everyone on the set a warning and say to turn on or turn off the light. We say striking. Yeah, okay, striking. We turn it on. Now,
Again, he said it's a warning. You say striking in order to let people know, don't look at the light right now. I'm going to turn it on or I'm going to turn it off. And just being on the set and knowing human nature, most people will look at the light when you go to turn it on. And these lights are so bright that you're going to get those spots in your eyes and potential sight damage. So always look away, especially your talent. Your talent's going to be standing in front of the lights, and you want to give them the most amount of warning.
Incredibly bright light. Couple things. The light is so bright, so intense, that oftentimes we need to shape and need to scrim it down. Okay. Striking.
Wear your gloves, Grant.
Striking. Okay, so these are scrims. They are held in by the barn door and they're color coded. So the red is a full scrim, the gray or whatever is the half scrim, and then they have the quarter scrim, which is actually half. You can see it. And when I drop these in, you can see that the intensity of the light goes down.
Harder for us to see at home, but basically these scrims are kind of like, think about sunglasses that help reduce the amount of light that's coming through. Maybe with these old incandescent lights or these types of lights, you aren't able to, there's no faders, right? You can't control how much light you're giving. A 1K means you're giving out 1K of light. So we put these scrims on to help reduce. Basically, it's a filter that goes on top of it to help bring down the light level in case you don't need as much intensity as the light is providing.
Can you see the light? In fact, let's shine it against the wall. Some of you were... So you can see how intense that is. If I put a scrim in, it brings it down. Maybe say, oh, I need a little bit more. I might put in a half scrim, and it brings it down even a little bit more. So scrims can help dim or cut the light. Okay.
What's interesting too is if you take a look at the scrims that he's holding, you can see these circle patterns. They almost look like water droplet, like coffee, like your coffee cup has made a ring almost on these scrims. Well, that's actually from the intense light burning this metal and changing the color of the scrim. Again, this is hot stuff.
So we've shaped the light as much as we can with the barn doors and tried to get the intensity that we need with the scrims. What else can we do to help cut the light? I think these can hold only 3 scrims, but if we needed less light than that, what do you think we could do?
The environment allowed, set the light further back from the area you're filming.
Can you say that again?
If the size of the area allowed, could you set the light further back from the area you're filming?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking about, so you can see how bright that is, and if I want to do that, it cuts the intensity slightly. What if there's a wall here and we can't go any farther back?
Gels.
Gels are for color.
Could you aim it at the opposite direction and let the reflection illuminate?
E47s, yes, good.
All right, we missed that part, but he's going to talk about diffusion, which is a piece of paper that we can put in front of the light to help cut the intensity of the light. He's holding some gels, which are the colored things that you can put on top of the light to change the color of the light. But he said the word C47, much like Stinger. C47 is a term used in film and television production that is basically a clothespin for a clothesline. You're going to hang your clothes on it. Well, clothespins are useful to putting things onto the lights. In the industry, we call it C47. So if someone on the set tells you, hey, grab me a C47, it's a hazing thing almost. The new people are always like, huh? Well, a C47 clothespin.
So we can take C47s and we can add gel. Now remember, when I said gel's color. This is incandescent, so it's indoor lighting. And if you wanted to simulate sunlight or moonlight, you have to color it. So I can put a gel on it. That doesn't cut the intensity very much. It really changes the color.
Yeah, so that's the effect of the gel. We're changing the color. Obviously, with the darker gel or a lighter gel, you can affect it. And he is talking about the tungsten light there, which is color temperatured for indoor color temperature, which will give you an orange color. If you're using the wrong white balance, everything will be too orange if you use the wrong outdoor white balance for indoor lighting. But this can help color correct these.
So you can use gels.
Or if you're being artistic or you want to do moonlight, like Grant said.
And they come in hundreds of colors. Blue is the most common. This is 2 stops. I think 1 stop is for daylight. Sometimes you want to get some, weird type of look. So we might put a red gel on. Got to get a bigger gel for this.
You see he's using the clothespins to hold the gels
so hot that they burn the
barn doors. The barn doors are those flaps that are on the ends of this 1K light. And the barn door allows us to put things in front of the light, like gels.
One of the things that you'll see grips often do is they'll have the C47s clipped to their shirt. They'll have just tons of them. They also always have a pair of gloves, because when the lights are hot, when they're on, they get incredibly hot, and they'll burn the gels if they're there for too long. But okay, so gels. The other thing that you can do, a lot of you might notice that the light is pretty harsh. Look at me. I'm suffering for my teaching. But it's kind of hard lighting. If you look over here, you guys can probably see these are hard shadows. So it's not particularly flattering. So yeah, I look pretty ugly to you at home who are watching this.
You don't look ugly, Grant. Come on. The thing to note, too, is he's going to talk about the hard lighting versus soft lighting. Watch his shadow. Watch how defined the outline of his shadow is. And when he puts this diffusion on, we'll take a look at his shadow as well.
But it's kind of harsh lighting. You can diffuse it. Again, use C47s to put some diffusion on. And what happens is it is taking that harsh light and kind of bouncing it in a bunch of different directions. So it's softer. It kind of bends the light around. I should look a little prettier now.
If you notice, look at his shadow. The lines of his shadow, I mean, his shadow's still there, but the lines are softer, right? His shadow's not quite as harsh. That's because diffusion basically floods the light and makes the intensity of the light hitting him lessened, and really makes all of the shadows, specifically on his face and everything, way less harsh, more blended.
And I need, how many sheets of diffusion do I have before I can be less?
I don't have enough.
Yeah, I don't have enough. Diffusion is really good for making people looking prettier. It's not necessarily the best lighting for a horror film, but for a rom-com or something, nice diffuse light is good. This is less than a quarter stop though. The intensity of the light hasn't changed. It's just kind of made it softer. We haven't cut the light. So some other things that you can do, if we've gotten to the end of the intensity of the light on it, you can use scrims in front of the light. So if you look at this, it's just like a mesh. You can kind of see through it. In fact, if you look on the shadow, you can see how light is coming through, but it's cut it down. This is a half stop. This is a full stop. So if we had this in front, do you see how it really cuts down the light? And if I wanted to do both, it's nice and even. And the way we can mount this is you take a C-stand.
C-stands are designed to hold these flags. Again, this is another scrim, also known as a flag. Anything big like this, you could call a flag. In your lighting control kit, you'll have a lighting control kit, which you see the different.
There is a look where it's cut down. I can get a second C-stand, and again, I can add another full stop or another half stop. And
what's interesting too is basically we have the scrims on the light and we have this scrim there, but the intensity of the light is still there. If you notice, his shadow still has a hard line to it. So this basically allows you to still point the light. It's just not as bright, not as harsh. So diffusion and scrims do different things. One cut down light, one softens the light.
You can see every time I do this, it's cutting the light down. It's essentially it's doing what dimming does. And yet we have dimmers for our lights. Dimmers change the color though. They make them more orange. So now you have to worry about gel and matching and everything. So you want to have, when you have 1Ks, you want to scrim the light to cut it down. And you can do that with the scrims that are built into the barn doors, or then start adding others in front. Okay, so these are just scrims. That's a term you need to know. Okay, so that's a look. I have eliminated the scrims. And what if the director said, it's a bit harsh, let's soften it up. So we can use diffusion on the light, but we can also use what's called a silk. And so this doesn't just let the light pass through it. Again, it bends the light and softens it. So when I put the silk on, let me see, that's not smooth. It is, and what it does, it's basically bouncing the light in a lot of different ways. So it's kind of, so I don't have hard, if I turn this way, shouldn't have the hard shadows. It's not as light here, as long as the light here as it is here, but I don't have the hard line on my nose or whatever.
You can also, again, his shadow back there. Look, specifically in the shoulders and the arms. It's a soft. It's almost like a gradient shadow. It's because of the silk, aka diffusion, that's there. That's softening, bending the light.
And you can see this on this side too. And that's what the silk can do. And this is a professional silk that's on a movie set. But if you get just a white sheet and put it in front of a light, you can get that same effect. A silk. Another thing we do oftentimes is we want to shape the light to get interesting looks. So, would you mind Hollywooding this for me? Yeah, just hold it. I mean, we could do it, but I want to keep it farther away from there. But now, if you look at me, what does this look like to you?
A bunch of weird backgrounds. Camera. Trees.
Yeah, it's just supposed to be light through a tree. So I would probably want to put a blue gel on it. So if I put excuse me, I'm going to strike that out. And again, you're looking at me and not the background. The background is misleading. But you can see how it kind of looks like it could be moonlight through a tree. And if it was a windy day,
Move it around.
yeah, there'd be a little bit of movement. And that's why I asked him to Hollywood it. By the way, the closer you are to the light, the is more. Yeah. So when you're farther away from the light, it's more obvious. So we do this when we do film noir, and we're going to shoot light through blinds. We want the light source to be farther from the blinds, and it makes it more distinctive. So, anyways, thanks. What is this called? Does anyone know?
I do.
Anyone know what this is called?
Yeah, but he says
It's
it.
a cookie.
There you go, cookies.
It does not for eating, but and I don't know why it has this name, but shaped panels are called cookies. And I didn't bring it, but I have several cookies that are also as scrims. So imagine, and the ones I have are steel, but imagine a scrim that has shapes in it. So it's constant light through, or it's constant. It's like a full scrim, and then there are the shapes or half scrims. So it's a much more subtle thing, and probably what I use more than a full-on cookie, because this is sometimes it seems exaggerated. But cookie scrims are nice options as well. So this is all for shaping light. Scrims, silks, cookies, barn doors, etc. Let's look at some of the other lights.
So the barn doors we didn't really talk about, but those are the black flags that are on the ends of the actual light. They open and close. Usually they're closed when the light's not being in use, and you open them up to use them. We've been connecting the gels and diffusion to them with the C47s, the clothespins. What's interesting though is you can use them, make them go up and down to control your light. You can actually like cut the light in half, or make a like a long kind of rectangle shape if you wanted to, just using that. So there's a lot of control options.
And I'm going to leave this 1K on. One of the things that you said that I wanted, Vernon, will you come up here and stand like here? And so I have the light on Vernon, and it's kind of harsh, and as an actor, it's kind of hard for him not to squint. It's kind of difficult. So what we often will do is bounce light at him. So if I do that type of thing, see how it's more even? I would probably need it to be a little more intense. I'll get closer, or you
Focus.
2K.
Hey, focus.
But if you notice that's a more
Adrian,
even
come
look,
on, focus, man.
then okay, Vernon, close your eyes. Then that. So I can scrim it, or I can sometimes bounce it. That make sense? Okay, thanks.
So the bounce card allows us to, bounce the light because the light's so intense. If you put up, basically, it looks yellow here. It's because of the amount of light, but it's basically a white, kind of like cardboard thickness level bounce card is what it's called. Think about like your poster boards you've done school presentations on, but a little bit thicker. We want it, you can actually use a poster board as a bounce sometimes, but you want it a little bit thicker, kind of cardboard consistency, because then the wind doesn't affect it. You can actually hold it up, and bounce cards are used a lot outside as well to bounce sunlight into somebody's face when you're not shooting specifically at a time when the sun's in ideal position.
Okay, so I am going to keep the light on so that we have some.
All right, looks like he's setting up a different type of light for us.
These sit on a C-stand just like all other lights. Then you can open up, it's indirect light so that let's see, can someone run this stinger in for me? Maybe on the back wall? Somebody over here? Thank you, Celeste.
Are there different thicknesses, like gauge wires or stingers on set for different intensities of lights?
Yeah. So I have some 6-gauge stingers, super thick when we have long runs, or if we have 20 amp. If I was going to run this light for very long, I would not run it in a standard, never 14, but even the 12 is probably would get hot over a while. I want to show you something. Okay, I haven't turned this light on for a while, but here we go, striking. Okay, now this in some ways is better because the light is not shining directly at me. It's shining away into the bounce, the softbox, and coming at me. The problem is this is 900 watts on each side. So this is, you can't have this on a 15 amp circuit. It will break, it will trip a standard circuit in a house. The nice thing is it's broken up into two. So you can have on one side or the other side. So you can cut the intensity. It's still quite bright. It's a fair amount of light. This is with them both on.
So what we didn't see was when he was setting it up, the light is actually facing the black part, which is a bounce. So internally there's a bounce here. The light is facing that, and the light bounces off of that and is hitting Grant in the face. So it's indirect lighting. That's what he meant by that. Also, he's talking about tripping your circuit breakers. This is a thing that film students will learn to avoid because nothing's worse than being in the take and all the power goes out because you have 12 lights plugged into a grid that should only support 2 lights. And basically if you become a gaffer on the set, you're going to learn all about circuits and how much power each light draws.
But again, this is not direct light, so this should not be quite as hard lighting on one side. It should wrap around my face a little better than the 1K. But this is quite intense. I'm going to strike these, and I want you to all come up here and look just how incredibly hot they are. I want to show you. You can't see this unless you come up here.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to get to see
this. You got to come up.
Oh, it looks like they're bringing this up. We can't really tell how hot they are, but I'll tell you right now, hot.
My DP years ago turned this on without opening. These actually open the hood, and he turned it on with these closed. It was about 3 seconds, and they opened them up, and it had melted the steel. Can you all see that?
Wow, yeah.
So I think it's like 1800 degrees that these light bulbs get. So you can't even keep steel on them. You certainly can't touch them. But can you all see that? Come in close so you can see it. Just how hot these lights are. But it's melted the steel. I put my finger right through it. That was just 3 or 4 seconds before he struck the lights, and it melted them. So they get really hot. And I'm just going to strike this for you. You can just see how hot they are, or how bright they are. But this is a way of getting a lot of general illumination in a large space, for example. You can have this in the back of the set, up high, and simulate sunlight coming through a window or whatever. But we don't use them very often, but very powered soft boxes are a possibility.
And put off a nice heat like I'm on the beach.
Exactly, yeah. You can get even burned from the light. Okay, I like it that you guys are up here. I'm going to set this one aside, let it cool down for a few minutes. And let's go to, okay, so when I was in college in my lighting class, we spent a lot of time working with 1Ks and 2Ks. And then things started to change. There was other lighting methods because there's so much work in manipulating this light to make it good. So the big technology of the time were Kino flows. Anyone heard of Kino flows? Dimmable fluorescence. So I'm going to show you what a Kino flow looks like. I have one in the case. The nightmare of the cinematographer. Fluorescent bulbs can flicker. They often are kind of in ugly colors that don't match daylight. They don't match incandescent. And so they just aren't particularly useful. And then all of a sudden, filmmakers said, hey, let's take advantage of this technology. It's dimmable, which is really kind of cool.
Okay, so he's talking about these ones. The ones that he was talking about before were LED panel lights, and those he's right, the color temperatures can be varied. I had the same light set, and each one like gave me a different color temperature, and they flickered and not good. These Kino flows are great.
And it is you know, very cool. Not hot, so sets don't get.
Yeah, by cool he meant temperature, right? But they are cool. Yeah, like cool like Fonzie too as well.
To be 100 degrees, we don't, as you know, the last few days we get tired of being, you know, with all the heat. So let's strike, or this is the one for.
Okay. 1K is plugged in up front.
Oh, shit.
Striking.
Sorry, they didn't yell striking because I thought it was the wrong one. Does someone have a flashlight? Okay. Striking. Okay. It's that one. Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Are we in? Okay. Strike.
Yeah, give him a good tap. Sometimes.
I feel like the lower ones may just blue. There's a pretty good flash there.
I hope not, but maybe that's the case. Anyways, I can dim them. And so you can control, instead of putting scrims in front, I can dim the bulbs. Also, the nice things about Kino flows is you can buy the bulbs in the color you want. So oftentimes I would have a case of daylight balance, which are these. I can have incandescent. So if you look at this light on the 1K, right, see how it's kind of orangish?
Yeah, orange.
And this is more blue?
Yeah, blue.
This is the color of the sun. This is what, if the light was coming through a window, it would be this color, not that.
Yeah.
So you want to have daylight when you can. But you can buy greens and all kinds of different things, and then you don't have to color it with gels. The bulbs are the color you want.
Traditionally, daylight is 56 Kelvin, and tungsten or inside lighting is 32 Kelvin. There's a whole color temperature scale that goes by kelvins. Things to know when you start getting into cinematography and cameras. White balance is particularly important.
And so this suddenly was a new feature. Hey, wow, we can have this nice even light, change the colors, we can control the intensity of the light. This was, you know, kind of the new technology. Well, Kino flows are kind of old school now, and it hasn't been that long. striking. I'll get rid of this, and the big move is away from fluorescent and to LED. And here's a very inexpensive light. This can be moved in a variety of ways. I mean, I can go vertically, I can go through the C-stand, make it go horizontally. What's nice is I can have two types of batteries on here. I have another one where you have gold mount or V-mount batteries. So if you're outside and there's no power source, you can run off the battery. A battery like this on a gold mount, one of the good Anton Bauers could probably go 8 hours full intensity. So you can have long periods of time.
Anton Bauers is a big, heavy-duty professional battery that runs the reds that can run these lights. These are newer technology LED panels. These are great. A lot of new. Cool, very cool. Just like fluorescent, the LEDs I think are even more sturdy, whereas like the fluorescent bulbs in the Kino flows can break easily. I think we saw even one break in this. And then LED panels prior to this were very unreliable. The grid ones that were 100 little lights. What's going to be nice is he's going to showcase nice, clean, easy to use lighting.
But for our sake, we'll just simply
so he's using AC, which is a direct power source, right? He's plugging it in directly. Anytime you can use AC, I recommend that over using battery because
striking.
You don't want to waste battery when you don't need to. Uh-oh, striking's not plugged in. Let's check our... Oh, there we go. The power is not plugged in. Okay, striking again. Oh, he turned it off. Good, striking. All right, here we go. Plugs it in. All right. Striking.
Okay, so they can be intense, but another thing about this is I can go daylight, I can go incandescent, or I can go somewhere in between, which is nice. Push of a button. Also, it's variable, so I can change the color by a knob, so I can have subtle amounts. But that's really nice if you're trying to match some incandescent lights from inside, light bulbs from lamps, or it's daylight and I'm trying to match that. I also can control the intensity, so it's dimmable. So I can go down, and it has that's 10%, that's 100%, and I can, right now that's 60%. I can dim the light, so they're dimmable. I can change the lighting color, and because they're LED, I can touch the light. There's no heat whatsoever. Also, I have diffusion on this. This panel has a diffusion sheet, so I can diffuse it right away, or I can remove that. And so this already is better than the Kino flows, the dimmable fluorescents. It's pretty inexpensive, and it's really cheap to run. This hardly draws any power whatsoever. So this is kind of the wave of the future. I have 40 of these lights in different shapes and sizes, but I'm going to do a demonstration with 3-point lighting using just LED lights. All right, so maybe you should stop for a bit, and we're right there.
Okay, so we're setting...
So now the camera...
So we've changed our setup. We're going to do a 3-point lighting, which is using 3 different lights to properly light a subject. What we're looking at, of course, is our tripod. It seems to have the red on there, and on top of the red is a display. So let's see what they're setting up.
Doesn't matter about the legs. It's level. Does that make sense?
So there's a level that's built into a tripod that you can level the head no matter where the legs are, and it has like one of those level bubbles, so you can tell if the head's level. Those are really good tripods. If you have a cheap tripod, you're going to have to go through and just balance the legs, and it's a big time waste.
So,
look, see, he's tilting the whole camera left and right.
Level for me?
All right. Student's gonna make it level. Let's see.
I've really exaggerated it, so it might be a little off.
It's gonna loosen it there. Okay, you can see he's tilting the bubble. Oh, we got assist with a flashlight probably. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we have.
All right, so that little green thing right there, not the light, but under there in the black area, we can see it's white. Okay, zooming in a little bit. That's where the level bubble is. So you're looking at it. You can see he's tightening the head.
Hold it.
And there you
Tell
go.
the monitor. The fan is going, so it's now powering up. It's basically a computer, so it takes a while to boot.
Yep.
But it will boot in a minute or so, and then
What's interesting is the red's fan, which keeps it cool, is loud until you hit record, and then it shuts off because you don't want to record the fan noise.
the monitor. It's not plugged in.
All right, there we go. We can see
Okay,
the monitor
we're seeing it on the
turned in.
Okay. Want to make sure you get to this, and I'll be the model. How ugly is that?
Not good. Very dark. Yeah.
All right, well,
Dark
his
might
head's
be good for me, but is there anything?
It's kind of like a shadow when you turn. Kind of like a weird
So
dark
there are a couple things. It's too dark in here for the camera,
Yeah.
and the camera's struggling to.
shadow.
Yeah, but we have kind of old fluorescent lights that are up high and have a lot of obstructions, and a lot of bulbs are out, and
it's the inside the TV
flickering
studio.
light. It's kind of
Lighting
bad
codes up
color. None of this works for what we're doing. Even a horror film, this wouldn't work. So we're going to need to do a good job of creating light. We're going to strike these in a minute, but first we're going to talk about the three-point lighting scheme. And we're going to use the Godox. This is my favorite light. I use it a lot off, and we'll put on
Okay, so
cone hood.
he's
It
pulled out
locks in.
this light, which is kind of a spotlight style LED. It's going to unlike the last LED we saw, which is kind of more like a floodlight.
So this is the Godox.
Godox.
And right.
The funnel or cone that he's putting on the front of it helps shape the light. If it's not on there, the light would spread in all directions. This helps funnel the light into a spotlight style direction. Again, LED's cool, and
There are a lot of pieces
if you change
to this.
if you look at the other type of light where it's a long panel that kind of more floods the light, which provides a lot, can fill a room, but won't give you that
Can someone plug
spotlight
this into that stinger
spotlight
right there?
style of light. Like if you want to hit someone directly on one side and do a spotlight type of thing, and we'll see when they he's plugging it in. All right, little surge protector. You can see there's setting these lights up do take a lot of little bits. It's just not like plug and play type of thing. It's a matter of setting up that box right there is or the rectangle that's hanging is basically the controller. You can see there's actually antennas that you can remote control these lights if you wanted. You can also plug batteries into that rectangle. He's plugging the converter into it. And then he has to now plug the controller into the actual.
So it has a power converter, which is down there.
He's saying
that plugs into the control box, which is this here. It hangs from the C-stand, and that goes into the light. And
so now they're able to strike it.
Striking. So that is the light. You can see that's 50% intensity. It is the blue light. Can we strike the house lights now?
and we can see the circle shape where the shadow and the light is. That's because of that cone. If there wasn't the cone, it would fill as much light as possible. We can also see that hot spot on the chair, that circle hot spot. That's where the light is most intense.
Make the intensity go up or down. So I'm going to go to 100%.
Yep.
And those looking at the monitor, is this good light?
No, kind of blown out,
so,
Grant. Blown out means too much
let's
light.
Take it down, scrim it until you think that they like the look on the monitor.
Okay, so they're gonna drop down the intensity of the light.
50%.
50%.
Yeah. 40.
Nope. Still, you need to get the features, especially someone as pale as Grant.
It does lift up. You want it to go higher?
Well, like more flatten it. Like it looks like it's tilted up. Like yeah, there you go. Not that. Not see what it looks like. The lighting.
I think we're adjusting our camera. We're gonna tilt down. I think we're gonna cut Grant's head off too much. There probably I would have tilted up a tiny bit, but he's also changing a couple different settings on the light. Or on the actual camera. All this camera's all the controls are on the display. You saw a touch screen effect. All right, so now he is.
Bright? Is that brighter?
Seems pretty bright to me. I mean, can we see them? Yeah, they tilt it down. They're trying to balance it. It seems like they're fixing the shot.
Oh, was it level? Or did you just need to pan?
Just to pan a little bit. But I wanted to, hold on.
This side will be the fill, and we're going to do that in a minute. But the key light is the most intense, so anything we do over here has to be less intense.
Yeah.
If this is too harsh, we can use a softbox. Is it too harsh? Not too bright, but too harsh?
Okay.
What are they going to decide?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's.
Oh. No, it's.
While they're figuring it out, essentially there are 3 different types of lights in your 3-point lighting. There is the key light, which, oh look, they're putting up basically what's a softbox, which is a box that helps diffuse the light. Maybe if we see it around, it looks like a big kind of reverse umbrella that has diffusion velcroed onto the top of it. This allows the light to be softer. It's not so harsh, not so hard on his face. Oh look, there is the diffusion that's built into this softbox. It's a great way to help provide nice soft light. You can see it's being velcroed on there. So the 3 types of lights you need. You need a key light, the most intense light that's going to be on your subject. You're going to need a fill light. The fill light is less intense than the key. It's going to be on the other side of where the key light is.
Look at the monitor.
All right.
And how is this looking?
Actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's bring up the intensity, because this is the key. What is it now, 10?
Okay, we're at 10 now?
That's what it is 10?
10 right now?
Yeah, let's bring it up to 25.
And we're talking about the intensity. Just looking at his face, you can see on the right is the bright side, and the left.
Side.
Yep. But
we have a nice key light. It's a nice even source. It's fairly intense. But we now want a fill light. A fill light will make less intense, but we want to have my face not be so dark on this side.
Correct.
So what we now have to create is another light. The second point of the 3-point lighting.
The second point is called the fill, and the fill helps fill in the other side, so he just doesn't have one dark side of his face.
So
Fill allows us to control our lighting.
Turn it off so they can see the difference.
All right, here we go.
So
that's without the fill.
You
and
see
now it is.
The difference is adding anything?
We can, yes, it definitely
and maybe
is.
turn the intensity up quite a bit.
Okay, let's turn it up so we can see. For sure, but we can see, okay, they're turning it up. We can see on his left side now, it is filling in.
Okay, so let's leave it there. Now strike it.
Striking?
And can you see the difference?
Yeah.
Now it's gone,
Yeah, so if he strikes it again, you can see, now this is more intense, so I should have more light on this side, But this is fill. So this is a key light, the fill light. This should be filling so that it's a little more even.
It's pretty bright on
And
both sides, so yeah.
So we can turn the aperture down on the camera.
What you really don't want is if you make both of your lights
Or you can
equal,
do
it's
the
going to make
eyeball.
really flat
You can
lighting.
get close with your eyeball, but how do you make sure that the focus is very good?
Oh, you use the
Most cameras have little already registered programs in there that you can. It'll highlight.
You're talking about how to focus.
So for the red, you can change the colors, but once you're in focus, you'll really see the outline, almost like
It's called edging.
There you go. Thank
And so it's, remember on the monitor, it's the bottom one.
Ooh, no.
It's on the other.
Yeah.
It's on the other side.
So there's like a focus assist feature in these cameras monitors,
Does it do
so
it?
you can see. Whoa,
So you can see
metal.
there when you adjust focus, you can see suddenly what is in focus is visible and the other stuff is not.
You guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can do that. Let's say your camera didn't have edging, because that comes in more advanced cameras, so we
Sure.
turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how else do you make sure it stays in focus? You have a prime lens, so you can't do one thing that a lot of people would do.
Zoom.
Autofocus, you cannot do that.
No, you ever, like I have a 24 to 105. I can be 24 and be really wide, or I can go to 105 and be, zoomed in
Yep.
quite a bit. When you're zooming, when you're focusing, you can zoom all the way in, and so your subject's really tight, and then pull focus, make sure it's really sharp, and then zoom out to what you want.
It's called critical
Prime lenses
focus.
can't do that. So what does the camera, like red, do?
As a magnification mode?
Yes.
Oh, that's
So
right.
Yeah.
it should
So
be the top button.
it
on
has
the
a
monitor.
magnifying feature in the display.
Oh, this one?
It'll do a digital zoom in, so you can check. You can go in and look on eyelashes or
There you go.
focus. Look, we can check the
So you
focus
should be
on
able to
Grant's
see me
goatee
a lot
there.
closer, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now she can pull focus, make sure it's exactly right, and then she can. This is, by the way, you can leave it on magnify where you record, and it's still recording.
Full.
It's a digital zoom.
Yep.
But it records. It doesn't record the zoom amount. So
Yeah.
if you were really worried about focus, you could pull that way, or pull with the edging, but it still records what the lens is doing.
Yeah, it's still going to do
That
the
makes
lens.
sense.
If
So
it
once you're
looks zoomed in,
focus,
yeah,
you can take it off, and now you should be able to see.
It's easy to get tricked too and forget. Like if you don't realize the magnification's on, you're shooting it. You're actually shooting a much wider image without knowing it. So be aware what's going on with your camera.
Back to lighting. I should have more light on my left side, the right side of the frame, and filling in from this side. Is that what it looks like? Yeah? Okay. Now, what this does, these two lights, makes me look very flat.
Yep.
That's a flat image. We want to give depth by doing the third thing, which is backlighting. We want to create a light line along my hairline and my shoulder. So we're going to add the third part of the three-point lighting. So we're going to take another light. I need a line kind of light here and kind of on my shoulder.
We can see up above his head, he now has what's called a hair light. It's a less intense light, but you can definitely look at his head, look at his shoulders. You can see that like the light is now shooting back on him, and it allows him to separate from the background. He's not so flat with the background. It helps the character separate.
And what the backlight does is it adds 3 dimensions. It gives it a more depth to the shot. One thing that you can do if you have a lot of area behind you is light farther back. So layers of lighting is a very big deal. You'll see us do some of that on David's film, especially when we do the outside shot. But if you watch like a night scene when they're outside, like in a forest or whatever, you'll see lights. If you pay attention, you think, where the hell is that light coming from? Because it's light, because they're trying to make it look very big and add depth to the shots. And they'll add lots of light. And I could give you 100 examples of that. But the backlight on a small subject like a person There should be, you know, more intensity coming from the key. It should be softened with a fill light on the opposite side, less intense or farther away, and then the backlight, which kind of lights up my head and shoulders
Yep.
from the back.
We can definitely see it in his hair and in
Make
his
sense?
shoulders there.
Can we see the difference?
Yeah, so let's strike one of them. Let's strike the key light.
Yep.
It's going to look really bad because that's the most important light.
Striking. It's not.
No. Let's keep it at
Do
the
you have
same.
to hold the power button?
Yeah, just hold it for a second and it turns off.
Striking.
There you go.
Very different, right?
Yeah. Different feel, right? Like maybe if you're doing a show.
But then you change things. But you can see that the key light is the most
It's important.
important light.
Look at those
And
shadows
that's
on his
gone. The other things
nose
don't
and
add
his
it.
face.
You know,
Those
they're
those
basically
all cause
supplementing
issues.
that.
Yep.
Okay, let's strike the key light,
Striking.
and let's strike the fill light.
Striking.
Which
And
is a very different look,
similar.
right? Okay, let's strike that, the fill light, and then someone strike the backlight. And we might have to just unplug it.
Striking.
See?
And you can just see it. Just
So
minor
subtle
difference,
little
the
things, but
little
if you want a
subtle-
beauty shot,
Yeah.
this is what you do. 3-point lighting, and you can do this in a variety of ways. But this is how on a lot of sets. Strike it again.
especially interviews, but yeah, you're going to set up a
think
standing
once you-
conversation. You want to think about this
Yeah,
in
which is
all
okay.
situations
Anyways,
where you're
3-point
filming.
lighting. Very important for all cinematographers to know how to create this effect.
Can I ask a question, Brad?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know on the if the red has this or not, but like if you want to get proper exposure or set your lighting or just your camera or set the lighting, do you ever use a card or anything in front of the face and the light meter on the camera to
Oh,
make sure
absolutely.
it's exposed properly?
Yeah, so we have a light meter, and every
Yeah.
shot we check to see. We want to keep it the same as the aperture, so that we have the correct amount of lighting.
Mhm.
What's so great about the red is it's so forgiving. It films a range of light, so if some things can look overexposed, sometimes you can still get some of the image in post, where a lot of cameras you can't. It also, there's no white balancing for the red, and for other cameras that can be the kiss of
It
death.
doesn't even
Yep.
have it?
Yeah, it's not
Or
necessary.
you just don't use it? Okay.
It's not necessary. It doesn't have it because
Oh.
it records a giant range of colors, and you have full
And
capability of changing everything in post.
he's
It
talking
doesn't
about
record one color image
Yeah.
like all other cameras do, so
Yeah.
you just don't have to white balance.
Yeah, reds are great in that fashion. That's also why they're extremely expensive, and we're very, very lucky to have the reds at the campus, specifically because of Grant. So take it full advantage. If you can't be there, you got to come at least once to check out these red cameras. They're so rad.
And then the first thing you do in post is white balance? Is that what?
Yeah, it's anything can be candlelight. Yeah, perfect. It might be a lamp beside. If I'm on a couch watching TV, it might be a lamp beside that's in the frame. We're seeing that light. It might be the TV itself.
Talking about using practical lighting, how to use things on sets, like a candlelight, a lamp, or TV.
If I struck the key light and the fill light and I have just a little light, I might have a blue light that's flickering, that's the television. And then when you see the television, that's the practical. So it's the actual lights that you see within the frame. But you can use practicals so I might have a key light and then have a lamp here, which is my fill. I'm getting the same effect.
Yep.
The other thing that you can do too, which often a lot of cinematographers like to do, is when we strike the fill, and then will you do me a favor and use this light to come closer to me. And
We have our bounce board there.
They'll tell you when you're in frame.
You're in.
So you want to get here, and you're trying to aim it so that it bounces at me.
So think
Kind
about
of from that angle. So can you see it? Can you see that light? Is that kind of having the same type of effect?
Yeah.
Yes, no?
See, the light is bright enough to bounce.
Okay, now put
Now
it down.
move it. Yep.
Are you seeing it?
No.
Okay, here. Will you do swap places with me?
Grant's gonna take here.
So,
This is a skill
would you
to
mind
know.
turning up the
So
key? What is it now?
25.
25. Can we turn it up to 35? Okay.
okay, so watch the
So
shadows
what
on
I'm
his
gonna do-
face. Yep.
Can you look straight
See?
ahead? So if you can see the darks on the side, can you see how I'm
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I went away.
For sure
See how
affects
I'm-
his light.
Yeah.
bouncing
If
the
shadows
light
go
in?
away, he's bouncing it
So
in
a
there.
lot of
Just have to keep track that
directors
it
will do that.
doesn't go in
They
frame.
will not have a fill light. They'll bounce the fill from the negative side, and it's doing basically the same thing. The key's coming from one side, but I'm then bouncing a fill in to make his right cheek not so dark, and you can see the difference as I'm bouncing it in. Make sense? So, okay, let's come up with some genres. Let's if we're going to create a mood, let's do horror.
Yep.
Two of the films we're doing this semester are horror films, and one has kind of some horror elements to it. So, how would we make this more scary, more creepy?
Probably darker, right?
Yeah. So right away, I'm going to strike the fill. Striking. And let's strike the key.
Striking.
So I can't see the monitor, but my guess is that's suddenly a little creepier.
Already more dramatic. You can see.
I might do something like
What about changing the temperature of the light?
something like that is a little creepier.
Yep. The lower the angle,
maybe
gives
I'm
us
gonna
more shadows in his eyes or something.
I'm going to strike this, and
That's really creepy.
and then I don't know where my phone went. Here it is. What if we did something like, that type of thing?
There you go. Are you afraid of the dark type of situation? Now, it's the thing to think. Just filming without lights is never good because you're going to get a muddled mess of an image. But using the lights creatively is going to be able to give you a creepy image. Look, even the movement of the light there. Yeah, ooh, creepy. We like that.
Is that creepy, or I don't know?
Yeah.
It is,
So all different genres are going to provide us with different opportunities of how to light it.
I had a scene from a film that we did where there was a murder serial killer who had a woman naked on a table, and her arms and legs were in vices, because it's a horror film that we made called Death Pact, and in it the only light source is a hanging light, like the mechanics use. Like a light that hangs from the power cord. It's like a bulb and it has a hook on it. And it was hanging from the ceiling. And he turned it on and then the light was...
All right, we missed that story. But it's a good one. Okay, it looks like we're changing our style of lighting. Going to use some blue. Maybe this is...
I need one more.
Maybe this is for... different style. Maybe it's moonlight. We'll see what it looks like.
You can try that.
We're adding our C47s on there, making the hair light blue. Definitely gives us more kind of horror film. Uh-oh, looks like I might have dropped our C47.
Smaller ones. If you want smaller ones.
Just an awkward angle, I think.
Try.
Try a different clip, maybe. Get on the barn door. If that light didn't have a barn door, maybe we're just trying to creatively wrap around it. What's great about the LEDs, again, they're not going to melt your gels.
Striking.
Oh, there we
Gives
go.
it a different look.
Ooh,
Let's-
nighttime.
Someone grab a red gel.
It's really
Striking.
good. Ooh, kind of like a 3D effect. Pretty cool. There's a lot, like, lighting control is fun. You can absolutely change style and feel. Nah, this is cool. Good music video vibes.
And there are other colors there. Someone want to grab another colors and see what other colors look like?
Especially with orange.
Maybe green.
Yeah, it seems like it's a little too intense. This is a full stop. I would use like a half or quarter. Here's yellow, which
seems like yellow and blue.
Yeah, that's like usually like a scary scene that you would see, like a mixture of red with that yellow.
Yeah, we did. Grayson 2 years ago he did a Blade Runner scene from Blade Runner, original characters, but it's the Blade Runner world. And we did a shot down an alley, and everything was in purple. It was like a light purple. Had a really cool effect.
It was very cool.
We tried kind of some light blue and magenta and some things, but the purple gave the look that he liked. We tried some greens too, but it gave it kind of a fluorescent future feel that looked really cool. So in other words, changing colors. The thing though with the red is all of this can be done in post. You can add any color you want. You can't do that with other cameras, but the red, if we want to change colors, that's a really easy thing to do. But for a lot of cameras, you got to add the color in as you do it, and then it's baked in. You can't take it out either, so you got to be happy with it.
Yeah. I thought we're supposed to try to do as much as we can before.
Yeah, partly because the colorist has an idea of what you're going for.
Okay.
The main thing is, and this is really important, is you got to think of your light source. What is it? Is it sun? Is it moonlight? Is it a lamp? Is it a street light? Is it the refrigerator light? You've got to have the light source in mind and making that look realistic. You can't have sunlight coming through a big window and have it be kind of dark, because sunlight overpowers everything. I could take every light we have in this studio, go outside in this sunlight and shine them all on you, and they wouldn't compete with the sun. It's way more intense. So that's the type of thing you got to be aware of, is light sources, how intense they are, the shape of them, because you can't manipulate the shape of lights in post. And then you got to think about continuity. I know, David, you've done that before in your Western, where light looked great in this shot, looked great this shot, but the two don't match. Yep. You film them at different times, and then it seems strange. So you got to make sure that your light, the shape of the light, seems realistic or matches other shots.
And the keys match on the right side. When you switch angles, you have to remember the key might be on the right side of one subject, but then it needs to be on the left of the other subject who's standing opposite. So you always have to take in consideration. That comes down to your cinematographer who's helping you remember all of this stuff, because their light continuity can be an issue. It's maybe something not people layman people don't notice as much, but it's definitely something that you'll start to notice as
I can't help
for sure.
I mean, I've watched that with people, and they, well, dude, why are you laughing? Well, look at this, look at that. I mean, and it's so obvious. Larger budgets they spend more time making sure the continuity is correct. But really, if you are trying to make a good film, that's something you have to be aware of, because it can take you right out, or take a lot of people right out of a film. But sometimes it's subconscious. You see it, but you don't really know that you're seeing it. And then some people just, oh my God, look at it. Things are wildly different. So yeah, you got to be aware of that. And lighting is a big part of it. So okay, we did horror. What other genres do we want to do?
Of course, genres are different type. Noir, film noir is a classic detective.
So noir is a
filmmaking
genre. It started in the early 30s. It started with a film called The Maltese Falcon, and then films like Double Indemnity and a lot of others. made this a craze for film noir. It was an American movement, but the French nicknamed it
Hard-boiled detective
film noirs, black film
style stuff.
But the concept is high key and hard shadows. So what we did for yours was shoot. Oftentimes in film noirs, you'd have a bad detective, someone who's a bit corrupt or violent. And if you think of Humphrey Bogart in The Maltese Falcon, he's a detective, and he has no problem hauling off and punching somebody if he doesn't like what they say. They're smoking cigarettes the whole time, so it's, you know, it's, they were, by the way, they were all in black. But they have to have the high contrast. And so if I would do
I think Blade Runner
like that,
2049. That's a film
I
noir,
might
sci-fi.
strike that. Will you mind striking the? And that might be a film noir, and I would probably, is this 100%? It is.
This one?
You
Yeah,
can
the
see
problem is
harsher
that's
shadows,
got a soft
more
box, and so it's gonna give
stylistically
a more
added.
even effect. If we took the soft box off, and we could do that. We could also use
I bet he adds a cone to his fill. I think that's what he's going to do.
definitely two.
Oh, they're going to take the softbox off. It looks like the key light.
Right here. And then
So you can see the softbox is that umbrella, reverse umbrella thing.
I'm going to strike this, striking.
Alright.
And the three newcomers, what are these called?
Flags.
Anybody? Flags.
There you go.
They're flags. They're black, they're thick felt, no light goes through them. So I might use a flag to create, in fact, let's remove the cookie. Will you hold the top one? And we're going to create a beam of light, horizontal beam of light coming through.
Oh, yeah.
So that is something like in a film noir.
Yep. Intentionally making lines,
that
like
looking
blinds or having a ray of light coming down onto a person.
Yeah. So that's the type of thing for a film noir, is hard lights. They're not pretty beauty shots. They are hard. The big difference between the light and dark, hard shadows.
Yep.
So that's film noir. In every film noir I ever saw, light coming through blinds. That's why we did that in yours last semester, was because it's so common. Smoking cigarettes. So David, we had you. Were you holding a cigarette, a lit cigarette?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in fact, if you want, we can show you that the shot that David directed and David directed and David starred in. He had his trench coat and his, what's that hat? Fedora hat and cigar. He downed quite a bit of whiskey. That struck. And then we'll have a little bit of fill.
All right, let's see what genre they're going for here.
Should I turn this one up a little bit more? Temperature?
No, because this is at 100. So how is that looking?
Oh, right.
Hot. Okay, so let's bring, what is that?
35.
Let's bring it down to 25.
Hot means bright, means overexposed. When you're talking about lighting, it looks hot and it looks too much light, basically.
Is it romantic? Would you imagine a candlelight
They're trying to rom-com
in front of them, and is it practical and
So rom-coms are going to
too white?
less shadows. It's going to be bright. You know, you can make it like it's in.
So the other thing we can do too
It's probably going
is
to go affect the iris of the camera, which will then, which affects how much light the camera actually takes in. The camera is a lot like your eyeball and iris in your camera. Oh, looks like we froze. Iris of the camera, that's the end of our behind the scenes footage. Again, you can when you close down your iris in your eyeball, but also in a camera. It means you're letting less light in, which makes the image you're capturing darker. But if you have a lot of light, that might be a good thing. So think about that. When you iris up or iris down, it's going to affect how much light goes in or goes out. All right, so that is our lighting lesson. If you have any questions or comments and nothing that was clear, please reach out to me directly, either through my email, which is on the syllabus, or through my cell phone. You can text me directly. I'll be doing this for most of the lessons throughout the semester. For those of you who can't make it in person, whatever behind the scenes, I will give you this commentary track. Hopefully I provided some insights, but Grant did do a really great lesson, and it was mostly me sitting here listening to him. But hopefully we all learned a lot. Again, if you're able to come to Gav and attend some of these, specifically, if you can't even make it in the time when we're try to make it to be on set and film with us, because that's where you're really going to get the practical, tactile education. There's a lot of theory here, but it's also a lot of learn by doing type of situation. So again, send me a message if you have any information, and thank you very much to Grant and everyone. See you next time.
These will be reinforced.